Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Mind Over Miles podcast. In this video, I am the host and Chiara is the guest because we are going to talk about Chiara's first ever 100k plus, what she felt, how did she prepare, what she felt after finishing the race. You've already seen the movie, but what you didn't see is what happened inside Chiara's brain, what happens when you run 100k for the first time ever. So that's why we are here with our guest, Chiara.
Hi, Yunus. Thanks for having me this time. And our roles are the other way around. Now I am the guest. So I'm very happy to be here and tell you more about this Cappadocia 119 kilometer ultra marathon. Yes.
Let's get right into it then. When did the idea of running 100k first start to feel real?
So the first time this year I wanted to sign up for a long race was for Chianti. That was in March, more or less. That was a 76 kilometer ultramarathon, by far the longest I've ever done back in early this year. And after finishing that, I was like, okay, this actually felt good. It seemed something feasible. I trained for it. So the next milestone in my mind was I've already done 76 kilometers. Let's do 100 next time. However, I was not sure about timing, which race, should I do it this year, next year, am I even prepared for it? But since it was March and it was still beginning of the season, I thought, okay, maybe this year, easy 100 plus kilometer can be feasible for me. And then we started looking around for races. Yunus had very big races coming up in the summer that I decided to just support and be a crew back in the time. So I was looking more towards October, September, November, more or less this period. And exactly 2 years ago from now, we were in Cappadocia for doing this exact same race. But I did the 64 kilometers 2 years ago. Yunus did the 119 kilometers 2 years ago. And back in the day, it was Yunus' first 100 kilometers race. I really had very good memories about that race. And I said, Yunus, why shouldn't we sign up again for Cappadocia Ultra Trail? It's also a Western States qualifier because it's a secret, but it's something I would like to do at some point. And you need to do a qualifying race to be eligible for the lottery. So I said, Yunus, why don't we sign up for that? It's a relatively easy 100k race compared to others in the Alps because you don't have mountains. It's mainly like big hills that you have to go, and the elevation is not crazy. So that's how it came up.
How did you feel before the race? What I mean is were you more afraid of your legs not being enough or your mind?
That's a good question. So I think that I was pretty confident that I put in the right work during the training. I properly trained for this race. I did very long runs. I did a lot of hills workout and I put in the work. So I was quite confident about my preparation. I had some light pain in my quadricep the few weeks before, but I also took care of it close to the race. I reduced the volume, so it was getting a little bit better. I think that one of the main question marks I had in my mind was about the night. Is it going to be very cold? Because in the day we knew it was supposed to be quite warm and hot, but in the night, the location, it was kind of a desert. It's going to be very, very cold. So I was afraid maybe I will get very, very cold. How am I going to deal with that? I was not too afraid of sleep because it's still within the 24 hours. So I knew I could handle that. But also before this race, we went through a quite stressful period. So I didn't sleep that well. That could have also been a question mark. And last but not least, the food. I knew I could rely on my fantastic new gels. But the question mark around will I be able to eat the gels and food throughout all the race, it's always a big question. And I think those were my main doubts around the race. And I was not particularly afraid about running in the night because the full purpose of this race was to do it together. So I knew that you would have been with me. even if we were pretty much always alone around the race course during the night. But I knew like we were together, so that played a big role for me.
I mean, there are many other 100K races around the world. Like you explained a little bit, I did this race 2 years ago, the shorter version, but why exactly Cappadocia?
Why exact Cappadocia? Because the terrain is not very technical. It's not a mountain terrain. It's more like whatever you can find in hills, a bit sandy. You don't have big elevation gain. It's more or less 120 kilometers with more or less 4,000 meters of cumulative elevation gain, which is to me quite feasible, looking at what I've done in the past. And it was in Cappadocia. I really loved being in Cappadocia 2 years ago. I love the terrain. I love that place. So why not coming back? And also, we will try, hopefully next year, to get into Western States, and we needed a Western States qualifier race. And the Cappadocia was one of those. So we decided that it could be a good candidate.
Yeah, okay, then, like, I don't know, I mean, people watching this will think like, yeah, she did 70K, and next natural evolution, she's gonna do 100K plus immediately. Like, did you just immediately just show up in the race and do it? Like, what actually went through your mind the week before the race or a few days before the race, rather than giving us just technicalities of I did this training, etc.?
I mean, as I said before, I felt that my body was ready for the race, but I knew I didn't get enough sleep because, I don't know, I could not sleep very well the week before, which was not good news. I've been traveling a lot the week before between work and personal reasons, so also we know traveling before the race is not the best way to go. And yes, of course, a bit of stress because we had a time target in our mind. We knew it was very ambitious, and yet, like, it's 100 plus kilometers that I have to run. So it's still the biggest challenge that I had to do so far.
But you are saying it in a way that it was, yeah, I couldn't tick the sleep box, I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that. But didn't you feeling is like, okay, I am gonna be running 20 plus hours. I don't know if I'm able to do it. I may get lost. The weather might be too hot. Like, what if something happens to me? Blah blah. Didn't you have any doubts like that?
Not really. I was not afraid of getting lost because I knew that the course was very well marked and Yunus would have been with me. So that was not one of my thoughts. I think like another doubt I had was, okay, will I be able to literally like run or stay on my feet for such a long time? Because previous to this race, Chianti was 12 hours for me, and this would have been a little bit less than double that. So definitely you question, will I be able to do it? But I also went back into the mindset of saying, okay, in an ultra, how I usually take it is from checkpoint to checkpoint. Don't think about the full distance from the beginning, but just think about, okay, I just had to do 10 kilometers for the checkpoint, then I can take my 5 minutes break, and then I can think about the next 10 kilometers. So that's usually the mindset I approach and what I thought when I was feeling stressed about the distance.
Yeah, that's like, it's just, people watching this is generally, they are more curious about, because the podcast is called Mind Over Miles. So they are very curious of what's going on in your mind. For instance, in my mind, if I go on a big race, for this race, it didn't happen because I did run already. I am literally going to a war. It's a mental and physical war. Like, I go back to my ancestors and I become a warrior. Like, for you, it's just checkpoint to checkpoint, blah, blah, more straightforward. Like, it's the emotional stress, then you handled well for your first.
Yeah, I mean, I knew I was prepared for it. If I didn't come with the right preparation, then I would have been way more stressed about will I be able to do it or not. But I really did like very long runs to prepare for this race, 6 hours, 4 hours back to back in a weekend. So after those big long runs, you really gain the confidence of saying, okay, I can do it. I see this as something feasible. Because if I can do it like during a 100 kilometer training week And at the end of the week, you have to do 6 hours run on top of your 100 kilometer that you just run. Then you think, okay, my body is responding well. And during training, I was not feeling particularly fatigued or sore. So those were very good signs for me that was feasible for me. Plus, we knew we also had the crew, which was very important for this race. My parents were there, which made me very happy. And also, I knew that Serjan, our no more untrained friend, was coming to cheer us up and act as crew. So that also gave me for sure some confidence, saying, okay, we have somebody that is waiting for us in the stations and will give us everything as needed. So yeah, that was very important for me.
So let's have the mental and physical journey together. So you go on a plane from Luxembourg, you fly to Turkey, you get into your hotel, and then you leave, do the regular stuff with all the race fair and stuff, and you are at the start line now. Now walk us through what you are feeling.
At the start line?
Yes.
So at the start line, I was definitely a bit stressed because there were many people around us. I knew that I was supposed to now start running for the next 20 plus hours. So definitely that was a little bit stressful. But on the other hand, I was also thinking, okay, Chiara, you need to take this job. You don't have to rush as a 5 kilometer race. So step by step, I was comforting myself, saying, okay, you can do it one step at a time. There is no need to start strong or to, start too fast because the journey is very long ahead.
Yeah, there must be some element of uncertainty, right? Because you don't know what it's like.
Yeah.
20 plus hours.
Exactly.
You don't know what your body is going to look like after 24 plus hours. Anything might happen. So speaking of not knowing what's going to happen for 20 plus hours, what would you say the sort of the best moment of the race? And to follow it up with, what would you say to be the worst, darkest moment of the race?
I had very good moments in the race. I don't know which one is the best. Probably the finish line, because we knew we were done with it and we actually made it. But there were also many other good moments because it brought me back some memories from 2 years ago and places where we ran together, and also I ran alone. So those were very nice for me, and seeing again those beautiful canyons, pinky ones, I really like that landscape. So for me, those were very beautiful moments. And now doing all the journey with you, it was making it even one step more beautiful. And the lowest moment, I think it was when you were not feeling good, because I thought, okay, Yunus made the NF here and I don't want to do 40 kilometers by myself, because around kilometer 80 you were very much feeling bad from nausea, headache, so those were not good signs, and you were hardly progressing at a steady pace, even walking. So it was probably that moment where I was like, okay, I need to make it in a way that you will get to the next checkpoint and you will feel refreshed, and then we can keep going. But apart from that, I really liked it. Also, yes, the heat was heavy, but it didn't hit me as much as it hit you, especially towards the 60th kilometer. I was handling quite okay, considering that we didn't really train for the heat. So yeah, I guess those were the main points, highlights of the race and lowlights for the race.
I guess people will be slightly curious about what happened to me, but it's for maybe another episode and maybe never gonna come.
Or just watch the video.
Yeah, yeah, you can go back and watch the video. I guess one question is, what helped you the most in the tough times? Was it not just the tough times, but during the entire race? Was it the landscapes? Was it the people supporting? Was it, I don't know, the other runners, etc.? Was it the correct answer should be me by far, but this is your podcast, so I'll let you answer.
That's a good question. Definitely the landscape, because I really liked it. And everywhere we were running, it was really beautiful, and there were always new things to keep an eye on. So that literally kept me entertained for quite a while. Then, I mean, other runners, not much, to be honest. I'm not one of those people that needs to have always a crowd of other runners, but knowing that we had a support crew that was waiting for us, that was a big push in my head, knowing that they were waiting for us, and they were ready to cheer us up and take some videos and enjoy the moment together. Then, I mean, of course, doing it with you, that was like the main purpose of this race, to do it together. So of course that kept me up. And also, like, in the lowest moment, I was thinking, okay, after all, we started it together, we finished it together. So that was one of the main thoughts that drove me, saying, okay, if I was feeling bad and I had like a very dark 20 or 30 kilometers, like Yunus had to go through, then probably the roles will be the opposite. So he will be supporting me and making sure I was keep pushing for the race and getting to the next aid station. So that's also what I wanted to do for him.
So before, I mean, you said for you the biggest uncertainty, unknown, what you were sort of like most scared was the night. Because it's something you haven't had before. You don't know what it's like. And I remember I kept telling you, like, night is completely different. How did the night feel? What is running in the night like? And by night, you mean like maybe it becomes night at 7 p.m. and then you have to run 9-10 hours, the entire night where people sleep, and even longer than people sleep, we had to run. So
I think it was much better than I expected. I approached the night with a different mindset as what happened in Chianti. So just a little throwback. In Chianti, I finished the race that it was already dark outside. It was probably 8 p.m., more or less that time. But it got dark around 6:30. And I remember like those last 1 hour and a half were a bit tough mentally, because I didn't expect to finish at night or like during the dark times of the day. Because I was not in that mental state, I felt that those kilometers were very tough. But in this race, I approached the night saying, okay, this is, the new thing, the new element in the race. And I approached it with an open mindset, saying, okay, now it's getting night, now it's gonna be dark, and we will take out our headlamps, and it will be a kind of fun treasure hunt to go and look for the next little flyer on the trail. So I think I took it with the right mindset, and it was not heavy on me. Plus, it was fun to know you are out on the trails at night. I really like the adventurous part of it. I mean, of course, like, you are within a race, so the track is well marked and you know where to go. Probably if I was alone, like in a completely random place with a no marked trail, I would not do it. But in the race context, I really had fun with it. And having Yunus with me, it was like a big plus, because you are never alone. So that was also important, being the very first time. I probably wouldn't have been scared of doing it alone, but it would have been more boring, because yes, it's night, no other sound, and you just need to follow the race marks. And with Yunus, we didn't talk that much because you were not feeling well, but I tried to talk to you. You just didn't respond.
it's that way. I mean, people don't have, like, if you can speak for 24 hours non-stop, that's congratulations, like, because it's at least for me, ultra running is also mostly a mental thing, and it's just like, you're I mean, you see the stars that nobody else can see, because they're in the middle of nowhere. There is no city lights, there is no town lights. It's just you're running under the entire essentially Milky Way galaxy. So
true. Another good thing of the night that I liked, and I did not think of it, is that every time you go up, you don't know how long the hill is gonna last, because you don't see the end. While when you go downhill, more or less, you see the lights of the town, or you see a little bit more. But usually, like, when I go uphill, one of the things that motivates me to keep going at that pace is seeing the top. So when you see the top, you say, okay, it's not gonna be that much longer. Just push through it and then you will make it. But this time there was no top because it was full dark. So that was a weird experience. But it was good because you just know you have to keep going. You don't know for how long. And I was too lazy to set up everything on my watch. So I just followed the darkness.
Okay, then give us a single moment, keep it short, of when you knew that you could finish this race.
I think when I arrived at the main CP at the 64 kilometers and I was feeling very good, I was not sore at all. I thought, okay, I can definitely do double this. I'm ready for it. And then when you started feeling sick, I was like, okay, now maybe I need to reconsider because we may need to stop. And then I started being stressed about the cutoff, saying, okay, if Yunus has to keep walking until the end of race, we may not make it on time. But then I also tried to calm myself, saying, okay, Yunus, at some point he will make it within the cutoff, so that's gonna be fine. He will find some energy down there where to take it from. And then I would say after we reached I think it was the 8th checkpoint where we met our fan, Özge. And then you took some time to rest there. Then I thought, okay, no, that was the 7th checkpoint. The 8th checkpoint was the one after, when you took the 5-minute snap. I think after we reached that checkpoint, you were so bad in that checkpoint to checkpoint leg, it probably between 90 and 100 kilometers. I was like, okay, if you manage to get to this checkpoint and you got your sleep, then you can do 20K more. It's fine. But after, up to that moment, I was really thinking we were going to DNF this race because you were very, very bad. You were looking awful and you were sleeping while running.
Interesting.
Yes.
It's interesting because it's a different mental states. So even if you are 24 hours together, your mental states are completely separate. That means.
Yeah.
For me, the moment where I knew I could finish this race was at the start line, for instance. It never changed. Like I knew that, okay, I'm feeling horrible, but I'm like, yes, so what? Like, I either die here or I finish this race. Like that was sort of like...
I mean, I knew I could do it, but I was not sure I could do it. I knew I was ready for the race, but I would have said, okay, I am 60% confident I will make it from moment zero, because I still had some stiffness in my quadriceps, so I still had some uncertainties down there. But once I reached halfway, I was like, okay, you're already halfway. You cannot throw away 60 kilometers because you don't want to do other 60.
No.
So, yeah.
So then let's come to the final part. So years of running, injuries, issues, I don't know, like, some ultras where you DNF'd, some, I don't know, mental stress or sadnesses that you went through. So it's not just the training of 6 weeks, it's training of actually 2-3 years that you've been doing. And then you finally crossed the finish line at 119.6K. How did it feel exactly?
I mean, of course, I felt proud of what I accomplished. I was happy we finished together. And then I just wanted to shower and go to bed. My brain just said, okay, you did what you have to do. Now I want my sleep. I want a shower. And then I felt super nauseous. So I wanted a plastic bag.
Yeah.
But I would say, yes, of course, I was very happy. But I also was very tired to properly enjoy the moment. So the day after was the best day, probably.
Yeah. Because generally, I don't know, people that don't do these kind of ultra runs, they think that, okay, you feel like you conquered the world, it's an unbelievable achievement, etc. While if you run, the feelings when you cross the finish line, it's more like, oh, finally, rather than, oh, okay, I did this, I did that. Generally, don't feel. How long did the race take?
22 hours and 50 minutes. So on time for Western States qualifiers, sub 23 hours.
Next question would be, what would be your goal?
That's a very big question. Ideally, if we will ever enter the lottery and make it to the lottery, next year Western States.
No. Your goal of the race time.
Okay. Initial goal was 22 hours. Then we said, okay, let's be even more ambitious and do 21 hours. But that was an extremely ambitious goal. And then we read on the race book that they gave us in Cappadocia that Western States qualifier was sub 20 hours. But for some reason, what on Western States website it's written is 23 hours. So we said, okay, maybe we can be extremely ambitious and do sub 20. Of course, that never happened. But the very realistic goal for me was to just finish within the cutoff. Like, even if it would have taken me 24 hours, which is the cutoff, I would have been very proud of myself. And then second was to make better than your time 2 years ago, which was still a very good time, 23 hours and few minutes. So we did even sub 23. So cannot complain about that.
Yeah, I also did my PB this year, despite everything that happened behind the sort of whatever happened.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go back and look at this 120K, what would you say surprised you most? Maybe about yourself, or what did you learn about yourself? It's just normally I don't like this kind of questions. Like, what is this LinkedIn post? Like, I learned nothing about myself. I just ran, but
No, I think I learned, and I was surprised that those 22 hours and 50 minutes definitely felt shorter than our workday. So I was impressed I could run for this long, and they did not feel that long. Like, yeah, of course, you feel that the day is passing because you see the sun going down, but if you think of my normal work day that I have to work 8 hours, a bit more probably, those 8 hours are by far longer than 22.50. So yeah, that is what surprised me the most.
It's sad now. It's
Yes.
now sad to talk about our lives, actually our normal life.
So when people at work tell me, oh, so basically you run for a full day, they're like, yeah, but during the week we are sitting in this office more than 8 hours. So it's not going to be any harder.
Is there a moment in the race which gave you sort of chills, even when you think about it? That moment was excellent. That moment was wow.
That's a good question. I don't know. I think I had so many ups and downs during the race that there was not a specific moment, except the finish line probably, because I was like, oh, I see, the arch at the end. I really like the beginning actually, because you are running more or less at sunrise time. You see all the balloons far in the back. That was very romantic.
Good. So I guess we should finish with the name of the podcast. There's a reason why we named this podcast this name. Mm-hmm. Mind over miles. When you think about its meaning, and after doing 120K for 23 hours, what does mind over miles mean to you now?
It means that if you really want to do it and you have the right preparation in it, it's literally all a mental game. You will go through so many highs and so many more lows that at the end of the day, you will go through your journey at your own pace, at your own, let's say, doing your own journey. And it's 100% how strong your mindset can be in going one step further. Because if you think of it, you can really do the race fast, slow, nobody will care about that. But what matters is that you stay consistent with what you're doing, and if you have your goal in mind, you will just split your big race in baby steps, and you will play your own mental games to finish the race. So I don't know, how I do it is splitting the race in checkpoint by checkpoint, and saying, okay, if I'm tired, I can walk, so it's not a big deal, and then keep going like that, and say, okay, now that I'm walking, but I could save few more minutes if I actually do a light jog. So why don't I start doing a light jog? And then I go back to my own pace. So that's usually the mental games I play when I do such long race. Don't think about, the integrity of the race, because that looks like a mountain. But if you split it up in how your brain can digest it, then you will keep going and you will really enjoy the journey.
So last thing before we close, I want to ask you, you hear about importance of crew, etc. Now you can speak about it because you've done at 120k. Now she belongs in the club, because I used to have to tell her all these feelings, and once you do it, you actually understand what it means. So what would you say the importance of a crew? Is it just a way for people to make it look more important than their actual journey is, so that they have a crew, or do you think it's really integral?
I think that crew is really important in this last race, because we even forgot home electrolytes. It was even more critical than in any other occasion, because without Serjan giving us electrolytes, we would be like super slow, and we were having like quite a big trouble with the heat. But mentally, it's really what cheers you up at the checkpoints, and really what you're looking for in the checkpoint, on top of getting your own food, drink, and rest. But knowing that somebody's waiting for you, it's very critical. Like when we reached the main checkpoint, and checkpoint I think 7, that Serjan was a bit late. Then we were like, oh, Serjan is not here. But then once he arrived, he was like, oh, Serjan is here. So he really cheered us up, and our mood completely changed. So crew is really important. I still believe it's not super critical. Like if these races are still set up in a way that if you don't have a crew, you can still go to the race. You will have people from the organization, but having somebody that you know and you can rely on, it's mentally like so much better. And literally, like you come to the checkpoint and you are like tired, like a bit like this, and then you leave the checkpoint that you are a new person. You feel so fresh after.
So final words. Are there anything else you want to say finally? And the last point is, so you started 2024 with a 70k, which was your first 50 plus k race. Then you did 120k. You will skip the 100k distance, let's say, something in between. 2026, Chiara, are we going to say sitting in the same table in November again in 2026? Will you say like, okay, Chiara, let's talk about your 100 miles experience?
Maybe. We will discover next year. Let's see. I am very optimistic about next year. Now we deserve a nice rest and off season for the winter. But definitely, I want to have some big plans for next year and next summer.
How will people follow your big plans?
Well, you need to stay up to date on Moving Potatoes YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. And yes, thank you, Yunus, for having me. Today it was very good. I like this podcast.
I guess I have nothing else to say to close the podcast.
See you at the next episode.